Hello and welcome. On the long defunct website of MechWarrior 3, there was a section with some bug reports. They call it designer notes, and I thought this was really interesting from a game design standpoint. There are personal comments in between, and I don't quite know who the author is, but I'm gonna read this out to you while you can watch some MechWarrior in the background if you like. MechWarrior 3 designer notes. Most of the questions that are usually covered in a section like this have been covered in great detail in the computer game press over the last few months. I thought that it might be interesting to show a bit of the process that we went through as we were heading towards the final stretch. The following list is a dump of the active bugs that we were dealing with at the end of February 1999, a few months before we finally finished the program. As you can see, some of these items are really obvious and boring. Others turned into problems that we spent the rest of the time we had available getting them right. I've added some comments in brackets to tell you what eventually happened as we finally resolved these issues. Right, bug report 78. There are no heat effects other than shutdown. There needs to be ammo explosions, penalties to targeting system, reticle, sluggish response to actuators, controls, threat of core breach, and not to mention detrimental effects to MechWarrior, somewhat like redout and blackout to pilots. Maybe if things got too hot, the MechWarrior passes out. There appears to be an ammo explosion implemented, but we still need all this other stuff. This actually turned into a pretty involved process that wasn't finally resolved until close to the end. One of the more obvious effects that you will notice is the mech slowing down as the heat increases. I actually did never notice that, I think. Well, I thought it was just because it needs to shut down, so first it slows down to shut down. This got us involved in a very interesting dynamic between the paper game and the real-time interpretation. In the paper game, all of the heat that is generated in a turn is added together, then the heat sinks are subtracted from the total heat. Only then are heat effects applied. In a real-time game, heat effects are constantly being generated, and the heat sinks are constantly dissipating that heat, and create a dynamic tug-of-war in the player between shooting as often as possible without shutting down the mech's systems. They did not implement any of that blackout or redout. Right, bug 113. Okay, clicking the abort button on the briefing screen does nothing. Now clicking the abort locks up the game. One of those tiny bugs that can drive you crazy, not important in the short run, but of major importance until they get fixed. These bugs are still in some versions. I think when you try to play this in Wine, you run into this. Maybe in other situations as well. Bug 138. Mechs, including the players, are not taking falling damage from jump jetting, walking off cliffs, etc. Falling damage and damage from things being dropped on you were important elements. At one time, brushing against cliff walls or large buildings would also cause damage. This led to problems with the player losing an arm before he even got into battle. It's very difficult to really see how close you really are to the walls in the first-person view. We finally opted in favor of a fun factor and took this feature out. Oh man, fun factor. They used to use that word in game design. I don't think they still do. When people talk about freaking realism, man, I am usually the one who would say fun first. Fun first. Bug 177. Frequently, player is killed by single shots by the enemy. For example, in the first mission, the player was killed by the first mission salvo from the Firefly. From the paper game perspective, that means that the salvo hit 3 to 5 missiles hit, all the missiles hit the head, and the player had little to no head armor on his bushwhacker. AI targeting was a major issue throughout development. We had to avoid the dreaded right arm, right leg predictability problem. What does that mean? You mean that you would try to aim like that? I don't really understand. What is that problem? However, all of the ballistic weapons and missiles have accurate physics models that we didn't want to mess with if we could avoid it. The problem above came about because the LRMs were all being targeted at the head. And if one hit, then the likelihood that they would all hit the same spot was high because of the physics model. This was especially true if you were standing still or if you were moving directly towards the enemy. This issue was resolved in a number of ways, ranging from randomizing the initial aiming point to tweaking the accuracy of the AI pilot to distributing the damage areas of certain weapons. However, standing still or making a frontal assault against a mech with long-range weapons is still a good way of getting yourself killed. 214. Turrets do not target lancemates, they only shoot at player. Turrets need to target all lancemates and give equal attention to player and lancemates. Yes, yes. Note, this also occurs with MFBs, Scott. It just wasn't fair. Here were these big juicy targets just waiting to be blasted away, and the stupid things would ignore them for my poor hide. So I guess this was fixed. Okay. Okay, 534. Different engine ratings on types in MechLab do not affect run or walk speed. Ah, now they do, and the clever mech designer can put together a pretty killer machine by paying attention to how fast they are going to move. The combination of a light mech with no armor, a fast engine, MASC and jump jets can be pretty devastating. I'll let you guess as to the weapon load used. Not sure what this is about. AC-20 can't fit on a light mech, can it now? 575. Heavier mechs should turn and accelerate slower than light mechs. For example, a 30-ton Firefly should be able to outmaneuver a 100-ton Annihilator. This works very well now. It's a lot of fun in multiplayer to use a small fast mech against one of those huge assault chassis. Just don't let them hit you, not even once. Yep, says the guy who never plays online. 586. Unable to assign non-clan mechs clan weapons and vice versa. If player chooses a clan mech, none of the non-clan weapons show up in the weapon selection screen of the mech lab. One of the design decisions that we made to emphasize the fun factor, woohoo, over being overly strict with mech management details was to allow all mechs to use any weapon on the field. Woohoo! This avoids the frustration of finally getting that PPC only to find out that none of the mechs that you have is capable of using it. Clan technology is still better than Innosphere tech in terms of size and weight, however. 754. Free MFBs are able to hold more than 6 mechs, 2 apiece. By the end of OP1 mission 3, if they have salvaged every enemy mech up to this point, the player has 4 Fireflies, 2 Owens and 2 Striders in their MFBs plus a Bushwhacker. We played around with allowing MFBs hold as little as 1 chassis apiece to as many as 3. We finally settled on 2 apiece. That still allowed the player to bring a fairly wide range of mechs into action, but still forced him to make those agonizing decisions. Do I take an extra Mad Cat or keep the Annihilator? Oh yes, those are good ones. 871. The recycle rates for PPCs need to be adjusted. They are currently the fastest firing weapon in the game. As it is, fighting against enemy mechs with these weapons is nearly impossible. Recycle rate is the real-time way of restricting the number of shots that can be fired by any particular weapon. At the time of this bug, the PPCs were firing with little or no recycle time, making them great fun if you had them, but devastating if you were facing an AI with them. Well, you would also blow up if you kept using them. I guess they didn't have overheating then. But if you stand in a lake, still fun. 259. Default machine gun ammo is not sufficient. The mechs should automatically be given at least 250 machine gun ammo per gun, and should also be customizable to have additional ammo per the user's inclinations regarding the type of mech. Fix confirmed. AJ. We now have a default of 300 for the Bushwhacker. Fixed reopened by AJ. Current build only gives you 100 M gun. We finally settled on 200 rounds per ton, but you can load up as many tons of MG ammo as you have room in your mech or ammo available. An all-machine gun mech can be interesting, but you have to risk getting extremely close in order to use them. They have a very short range. So I guess the previous bug report comment was about machine gun, maybe? I don't know. Machine gun is a kind of a weird gun. I mean, the ammo, they eat up the ammo so quick, but if you have a lot of them, it can be fun. 395. In instant action or multiplayer, if a player selects an elemental, it does not come configured with jump jets. Will the player be able to play elementals? Elementals now have jump jets, and no, a player can't play an elemental. It would have been way cool, but there just wasn't time to do it right. If we were going to allow a player to do this, then we would really have to implement the can opener effect of crawling up to a mech and ripping its armor off. No time. Heh, nice. 638. If a player mech is moving but its speed is stabilized, KPH is not changing, hitting reverse backspace does not change the mech's direction. Interesting. An interesting design issue. Do we make it that you cannot go into reverse if you are traveling above a given rate of speed, like a car? Or should hitting reverse slow you down and then start moving the mech backwards? They did that, yeah, they did that. I mean, it could just stop you and you would fall. That would also work. 692. The player is unable to cycle to a weapon group in which all the weapons are out of ammo. If the weapons in a group are out of ammo, it skips over that group. This prevents players from, without looking at the weapons list, knowing exactly how many times they must press a button to get to a particular group, which is critical in multiplayer. Interesting. Okay, so the comment is, this came down to a matter of opinion between styles of play. Some people wanted a weapon group to be selected even if there were no weapons or ammo available in the group anymore, like the tester above. Others were frustrated because they had to click past a group that didn't have weapons. We opted to automatically skip the group. Interesting. Issue 803. Player should be able to select Lancemate's mech in MechLab. Player should be able to select Lancemate's mech to use for himself and be able to put the Lancemate in another mech. Note, this only occurs if a player has no extra unused mechs in salvage. If a player does not have an extra mech, they can get their Lancemate's mech by moving him into the extra mech. This was a problem that was obvious once it occurred, but wasn't anticipated at all in the design. In a nutshell, the problem occurs when your Lancemate is in a mech that you want. If you have an extra chassis lying around, then you simply move your Lancemate into the extra chassis, which moves his original mech into the stockpile, which you then select for yourself. However, if there wasn't an extra chassis to move your Lancemate into, how do you get this mech for yourself? Thus was born the no mech selection in the mech lab. You simply assign your Lancemate to no mech, grab his old mech for yourself, and then assign your old mech to your Lancemate, or not. If you don't want your Lancemates to come with you in the mission, just leave him with no mech selected. What does happen to dialogue? I think they just keep talking the same stuff even if they're not there. Yeah, because they're all connected by radio. But yeah, this is like a simple thing that needs solutions. 806. Mechs, both the players and enemies, are not limping. Very bad. One of the coolest things in the game is to shoot at an enemy mech's legs and see him trying to limp away. This was working great. I can, by the way, confirm that. Crippling legs of enemy mechs is the biggest fun, especially in MechWarrior 3, where destroying one leg is enough to get rid of them. In Mech 4, you need to destroy both legs. This was working great, and then suddenly it stopped working for about 2 weeks. Nothing major. The programmers were just working on some new animations and didn't want to bother with the limping for a while. But it was sorely missed while it was gone. 930. The voice-over on the training mission for mech combat says that once the MFBs have repaired the mech, there should be a list of repairs completed at the top of the screen. There is no such list in training or any other part of the game. Not sure if the list will not be in the game and the voiceover is incorrect, or if there will be a list and the voiceover is correct. There was going to be a list, so the voiceover was initially correct. Then the list was removed, and we had to delete the line. One of the biggest headaches in a game of this type is dealing with the recordings. It takes time to write the script, make the initial recordings, process the recordings, and then get them into the final product. In a perfect world, all of the scripts would have been done well ahead of time, and they would of course match the final implementation of the missions for which they have been recorded. In the real world, you realize that the 5 Mad Cats that you've put in the mission are way too many for that time in the campaign, so you have to change them to 2 Mad Cats and a couple of Shadow Cats. But you've already recorded the lines that talk about the 5 Mad Cats. Oh well, that's what pickup sessions are for. So I guess they did correct their lines. Cool. That's a quick look at a day in life of developing this game. In case you are wondering, the numbers on the left are the bug number in our database. On the right are the bug descriptions. Okay, this is not a table, but fine. I had exported just these 2 bits of information from our database and exported them into this table for a bug discussion that I had with Zipper Interactive. When I came to writing these designer notes, I found this list on my hard drive and was fascinated to see where we were back then and where we finally ended up. I want to thank everybody who has been involved in this process. Just take a look at the credits list and you will see that that is a lot of thanking. However, beyond the credits list, there are a whole lot of people that I want to thank without whom this project would never have been completed. And those are the wives, husbands, children and significant others that had to put up with nearly 2 years of intensive effort. This especially goes to the people behind the people at Zipper. And a final big thank you to the real Epona and Dominic, who went without a dad for a couple of months. I don't understand that part. Oh wait, I get it. So the author of this text here has 2 kids and that's their names. Cool. I like seeing this stuff. I especially like the part where the developer looks at this and then evaluates it again and comments on it. So this has been a piece of game development history that nearly got lost, but archive.org's Wayback Machine saved it. And now it's on YouTube, so that YouTube will stay alive forever, right? My channel is not going to be taken down, right? Well, check out my other MechWarrior free videos and subscribe if you're not afraid of what else might appear due to that. See you in the next video or one of my older ones. Until then, leave a comment and I'll say ciao there. Ciao.
Mission successful. Targeting. Targeting.